question from a CEO to our young leaders here. I think Vineet has got a question for some of our young leaders. Vineet, why don't you ask your question?
Who would answer it?
We've got plenty of that. There are more than 50 of them here, but let me get Kunal to answer it to start with here.
Okay, Kunal, most of us know what you want in life. Most of us know what you love in life. My question is, which one of that you will give up to get what you want?
I probably will have a differing answer to a lot of people here.
Because you're special.
No, not because I'm special. I live every day. I go to office, I enjoy myself. I come back home, I enjoy myself. That's all. So probably from an answer perspective, I'm loving what I'm doing, and I'm not willing to give up anything as of the moment. Whatever comes my way, comes my way.
So, Vidya, what are you willing to give up? Clearly, Kunal's not in the mood to give up anything, and I'll tell our audience why a little later. But let me first hear from you on what is it that you're willing to give up.
No, I'm actually taking from Kunal's answer, though not in its entirety. I was just before the interview started, Naushad was asking me that what do you do and where you work, etc. And the first thing that I told him is that I work in the FMCG sector for the last 6 years, and I have absolutely loved it. So the one thing that I've understood is that I like this sector and that I want to work here. But having said that, if I zoom out and I think of what do I want to do, it is about being happy on a daily basis, right? So I want to go home feeling good about myself. I want to go home feeling good about what I've done. And for that, if at some point of time I have to give up some bit of my personal life, at some point of time I want to give up some bit of my professional life, that's a sacrifice that I will make.
Vivek, the one thing that Vidya is not talking about giving up is money. Are you willing to give up? Are you willing to give up money to chase a breakthrough idea, to work with someone whom you really like, take a cut maybe at some stage in your career? Would you be open to that idea?
Yeah, I mean, assuming I've made enough money by that point of time.
It's an important assumption, isn't it? Naushad, do you think a lot of our young leaders are very obsessed with money as well? Is that an important factor that kind of gives them an achievement, a sense of achievement? Do you see too much of it today, or do you think it's always been like this? And what's wrong in chasing money at one level?
It's unfair to compare this generation versus the previous generation or any year, right? So I don't know really if people today are more materialistic oriented or our generation was the same. That's for others to judge. I think what I will say is that for a holistic leader, you have to think about some element of you in terms of social or nation building, right? I don't think you can be a leader. You may choose to do whatever you want in terms of your materialistic life, if you like it or you don't like it, right? But I do think that to be a respected leader in India, you have to, at the time that the country is today, you have to think about what is your contribution to nation building, right? And maybe it is not now, maybe it's in 5 years, or maybe it's at some point early in your career. You've got to think about what are you going to do for the people who are not in this room.
Shikhar, you want to comment on that? Is the broader point about young leaders chasing money, is greed bad or is greed good? What's your own sense at this age, of course?
I think greed is good because it depends upon how you define greed. If it is to make a difference and to get recognized for it, that's fine. But you need balance. And honestly, I think if I look at this generation and compare with my generation, I don't know whether this generation is more balanced or mature. In fact, I would think they are. So I think there are always different kinds of people. There were in our generation, there are in this generation. Some will seek pure money, some will want to make a difference, some want to go change the world and they don't care about whether they're getting paid for it or not. And you find all kinds. And I think the guys who have the broader perspective and want to make the difference actually are most likely to succeed.
Right. I've got a question from the audience as well. Kopal Jain, why don't you shoot your question? You've got an interesting question going.
My question is open to all. As we were talking some time back about our generation Y and it being impatient, and I see that in today's organization, most of the top is tenured and seasoned. So how do you manage the fast-track growth expectations of our young leaders today?
Let me rephrase that. What she's trying to say, I would imagine, is that how do you make way for young people if the old don't leave? Harsh Mariwala, I want to hear from you first.
Okay. I think growth is very important. The first fundamental principle of any CEO is to make organizations grow. but it has to be sustainable, it has to be profitable. If the organization grows at a much higher pace than the industry pace, then there are more options, more opportunities for you to occupy more positions. Secondly, I strongly believe in a very flat organization. Less hierarchy. The moment you have flat organization, good capable people, there are automatically the bosses are forced to delegate because there are so many more things to do in a growing organization. So I think if you combine growth with flatness and a good quality talent, then automatically you'll get more and more chances to grow faster.
You know, the other thing that I want to talk about is entrepreneurial freedom. Nitin, you know, a lot of young leaders seek a lot of entrepreneurial freedom at work. How do large organizations ensure that, you know, young leaders get that entrepreneurial freedom?
I don't think that all organizations manage to ensure it, but organizations do need to find mechanisms that allow individuals the capacity to innovate, to try something new. And most good organizations recognize that young people come in with something which is really special, a fresh pair of eyes. And the real value of a fresh pair of eyes is allowing them to think about what's going on, assess the current practices, ways of doing things differently, and be open to the possibility that there can be something better that comes up. And I think it is a failure on the organization's part. What a colossal waste of having so many young, bright people who come in and look at it if you've not created a culture within the organization that is open to new and different ways of doing things. So I don't know of any formula other than the recognition that it is in the self-enlightened interest of leaders of an organization to have a culture and a context that you create which allows people to do this.
Shikha, I want to talk about gender diversity as well, because, you know, this year for our program, 6 of the final 28 young leaders are women, which is phenomenal considering last year we just had one who made it to the top 22. Having said that, do you think we need to see more, you know, women young leaders as well? In fact, I've got an interesting question from Pratima. Pratima, you believe that a female professional has to be far more efficient to be treated at par with men?
So first of all, I think I've been very lucky that maybe I joined the right organization and, you know, we were given equal opportunity and equal reward. So I don't think we had to work harder. So honestly, I can't answer that question very broadly because the experience that I have had, that has been the case. But having made a shift to or worked in JVs where I've seen some culture elsewhere, maybe there is an issue of mindsets that people have about women. Mm-hmm. And the traditional mindsets which become a barrier are saying that, oh, you know, they will go away on maternity leave, or they need to go home early, so they're really not as good as the next guy who's willing to work till 10 p.m. And those are mindsets that I think organizations have to break.
Harsh Mariwala, that's always a tricky one. How do you manage this work-life balance? Because, you know, young leaders today have a lot of, you know, and I'm not trying to say that young leaders before didn't have a life of their own, but they've got a lot of things to do. How does one manage? Because, you know, their bosses expect them to work 16 hours a day, work on Saturdays, work on Sundays. How do they manage, you know, their professional and their personal lives?
I would say that, okay, there will be certain phases in your career when all of a sudden you'll have to extend your, whatever, working hours, but that will be in phases. Mm-hmm. But by and large, I think lack of time is an effect in my opinion. There is something wrong. Either it is your wrong leadership style or you don't have good quality subordinates. That means you are taking everything on your own. And actually, if you have the right leadership style, if you have the right delegation, if you are managing a job, I think it is very easy for any person to manage it, because I again go back to lack of time is in effect, you know. There is something wrong fundamentally in the way you are actually managing your team.
No, I know you get home at 6:30 every day, but that's again because you know, it's your organization. Naushir Kaka, I'm sure, you know, you don't get home at 6:30 every day, do you?
Maybe 6:45. No, but I think work-life balance is actually two things I would say. One is it's an individual. It's not an institutional decision. Okay, when you're talking about balance, you're talking about an individual decision, and that individual's decision will differ by his or her career, right? Over the points in the career, what we call balance or work-life balance will actually change dramatically. between when you're just out of college to when you just get married to when you have your first child and when your child goes to university. Right? And so number one, it is an individual work-life balance. It is your role to draw the line in the sand.
Vineet, is it easy? Because in the IT industry, it's all about, how many hours you spend at work. That's how companies get billed.
I think the companies unfortunately cannot bill more than the number of hours. So, see, if that's the only number of hours people are working, there is only balance. And life. There is no work. I think there are couple of trends we should think about. Number one, with the mobile phones you are carrying, you are connected now. So you are available on demand 24/7. Whether you like it, you don't like it, you want to have a life, you throw the mobile phone away. With digitalization of the organization, people will want instant responses. Your customers will want instant responses, your boss will want instant responses, your subordinate will want instant responses. So therefore, to compare the work-life balance of your dad with your work-life balance, these are two different worlds. We are in an interconnected, very fast world, and the speed at which the world is working is increasing at multiple times. So, and the speed at which your children are going to work is much, much faster. So the more you organize your life in terms of how you can produce higher output by thinking carefully of what you're doing, I think you'll be able to find some life. But to say that you're not going to be available 24/7, that's, I think, unfortunately, it is unfortunate. Unfortunately, those days are gone.
Those days are gone. Let's get closing comments from our 5 CEOs here. Then, Naushad, I want to kick off with you. What is the one thing that you'd say young leaders need to watch out for? What, according to you, is the likely stumbling block for young leaders as they move forward?
I'll go back to where I started, which is it's the lack of willingness or the lack of appreciation to learn from others.
Harsh Mariwala, what is the one thing that CEOs need to learn that you think to ensure that young leaders also get their due?
I think they have to create the right culture in the organization which promotes empowerment, which promotes risk-taking, which promotes learning, which promotes dialogues within the organization, because a lot of learning happens through dialogues, There should be a high degree of openness and less of politicking and gossiping within the organization. So to create the right culture, I would say.
Shikha, how does one create the right culture?
I think it's about role modeling and what people see rather than what is written or said. So to me, when I go back, one of the defining things that happened in my career was I had spent less than 2 years in ICICI, and I was responsible for giving a loan to a client, and I ended up doing a double disbursement. So I remember it was a loan of 15 lakhs and I ended up disbursing it twice. And I discovered it and I was really scared, and I went and told my boss, this is what happened. And the guy didn't bat an eyelid. He said, okay, fine, now you just go and see if you can recover it and understand it's a mistake, now don't make it again. And that is what gave me the ability, and it stayed with me for a long time through my career, to say that, look, a genuine mistake is all right. And so the organization gave me the space to take that risk, and then I wanted to give that space to other people. So I think it's what leaders do that makes the real difference. So sometimes to build culture, to Harsh's point of how do you get challenge in an organization, how do you get dissent, sometimes I've actually had to, in a very hierarchical organization, do a deal with one of the young guys that, come, we're going to have the open meeting, please challenge me and say I'm talking rubbish in the open meeting, so that other people know it's okay to do that. So I think it's what people see happening that creates the culture.
Nitin Paranjpe, your one advice that you'd want to leave for all our 28 young leaders?
All I would say is intelligence is a very powerful quality. Intelligence combined with humility becomes an unbeatable combination.
Vineet?
I think I'll go back to the question I asked in terms of what would you give up. A rocket which launches to the moon gives up the comfort of being on the ground. Or do skydiving, you give up the comfort of being on the platform or being in the plane. So the question to think about in life is that if you try and be in the comfort of your current position and want to aspire for a higher position, you're never going to get, you're going to be the most frustrating person on this planet. So you have to have the conviction, the courage and the guts to quit and leave whatever you're doing if you're unhappy. If your aspirations are higher than where you are today, quit. That is the only thing. If you can't quit, then shut up.
just being intelligent isn't enough, and you need to get out of your comfort zone. That's the key message really from our panel here. You need to do more, and don't just blame organizations. I guess at the end of the day, everyone needs to look within. Intelligence with humility is an unbeatable trait, says Nitin Paranjpe, and I guess all of us here would tend to agree with him on that note. I think it's been a fascinating panel discussion. Great to hear the ideas from the CEOs here, and also to hear some fantastic ideas from all of you on what industry can do to ensure that young leaders, after all, get their due. With that, I'd like to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for being here this evening.